I have a philosophy that some of the best DJs came from the dance floor.
That makes a lot of sense.
You get that perspective from that angle, and you absorbing that energy that that DJ is projecting.
Hmm.
So being on the dance floor, I said to myself, one day I'm gonna be on the other side of it,
Mm.
and I'm gonna know exactly what to do because the aesthetic of the dance floor and the DJ, it's a marriage.
Mm.
It's a marriage of energy, the way I
Hmm.
like to describe it.
Yeah.
You know, I feed you, you feed me back, I
It's a
feed you.
relationship. Yeah.
This is very much a relationship. That's why I frown upon, no disrespect to anybody, but I've never done this, and I kind of frown upon DJs that have a set that's gonna,
Hmm.
oh, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna play this, because you get there and the energy could be totally different from what you prepared.
Yeah, it's not
Only time
responsive.
that comes into play, from my experience, is if you're doing like a wedding or some type of construct of a gig.
Hmm.
But for the club DJ, you can't say that, okay, I'm gonna play whatever at 10 o'clock and it's gonna work. The place may be still empty at 10 o'clock. The DJ before you that open might have played that song before
Hmm.
you got a chance to play it at 10 o'clock.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you can't come with a predetermined preset in your mind and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick to it. This is my first record, my second record, my third, blah, 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 and go down the list and stick to that.
Hmm.
You're setting yourself up. But what I will say and what makes sense, and sometimes I do this, but most of the time I just wing it because I'm feeling the energy of the room.
Hmm.
I believe it's okay to set up your first two, maybe your first three selections, and go from there and just be a entertainer, be a DJ, be an artist, express yourself, you know. But I can go on and on about that. I will let this continue on because I'm very passionate about a DJ showing who he is,
Yeah.
showing his personality, interjecting um, his talent, his passion, his experience, his knowledge. We have a job to do as well as entertain. We also are educators.
Hmm.
We have to break the new music. We have to make people familiar with the old music that maybe came before their time, maybe came before the time they were clubbing. You know, it's our job to entertain and break new music.
Yes, absolutely. My first two encounters with you, Jocko, were both in September just last year. You played a couple of times at the VFW back then for the first ever Vinyl and Vibes for Hort Carl, and then also later on that same month for Decadence as well. And I can remember when you arrived for Decadence, we briefly met earlier on that month, and you were talking along the lines that you just were about your philosophy of creating a set. You were there before the event even began, you were there for the end of the burlesque, and you were very intentional, and you were sharing with me that it was important to be there to kind of read the vibe and be responsive. And you talked also about your routine throughout the day before playing a set. I was asking you about it, and it involved lots of meditation. It was very intentional. The previous time that I met you for the Vinyl and Vibe set, you were just referring to maybe planning the first song, and the first song of your Vinyl and Vibe set was "It's a Cold World," Frankie Knuckles.
Yes, yes, yes. Frankie
Could you?
Knuckles and Jenny Principle.
The focus in that song is on looking for relations, and I see no commitments. I'm just a prodigy of love. It struck me as such a powerful starting point, Could you say a little bit about how you selected that as the opening song of that Vinyl and Vibe set?
Sure, it was the first thing I got my hands on when I went
That's a
into
good
my
reason.
record.
That's a good reason.
Because I'm confident with what I bring because I'm very intentional. Since I don't create a set or set up a set, I'm very intentional about what I have in my bag of tricks, which is what I like to do is set up a mood, set up a journey, so to speak.
Hmm.
And this comes from being under the tutelage of Steve Hurley and partying from Steve Hurley in Chicago, Ron Hardy, Frankie Knuckles. They took you on a journey with the music,
Hmm.
and there was a message. So, to answer your question, I wanted to start out with a message, and it's a cold world, and that was the perfect message to get attention
Hmm.
because I'm very intentional. If you listen to me, if everybody listen to me the way that you do, they will understand I'm actually having a conversation
Mm.
with the dance floor.
Yes.
I'm
Do you?
expressing my week. I'm expressing how I feel at the same time entertaining and just hoping that somebody on the floor might have had the same kind of week I had.
Do you think that
And
the fact that you came to DJing originally, you were saying about the hip hop DJing through breakdancing, do you think that that has had a big influence on your ability to cultivate this relationship with the dance floor?
I will have to give that to me being introduced to music at a very young age. I had a 45 collection at the age of 7 years old,
Hmm.
and I've been collecting vinyl ever since.
Since you were 7. That was your brother gifted
7
it
years.
to you, or you would no?
No,
What was the story?
the story is for Christmas, I wanted a record player because I was bothering my mom's record player
Mm.
quite a bit. And I got a record player. I got what they call a
Jubilee Jukebox. The Jubilee Jukebox was a gift that I got from Santa. That's how
Hmm.
young I was. Seven years old. And this recalls me coming back kind of the conversation that we had in the club when I was talking about how at such a young age I was reading grooves.
Yes.
Yes, I was reading grooves because it was my bedtime and the Jubilee Jukebox was in my bedroom. And of course, it's time to go to bed, got to turn the volume off. But what I shortly discovered was you can actually hear the audio through the needle cartridge.
Mm.
So I would put my ear up to the needle cartridge and still listen to music till I fell asleep, of course.
Mm.
That was an early lesson in reading grooves and just being mesmerized how the time travel from the needle travel from the beginning of the record to the end. It was just something fascinating to someone under 10 years old to see that time travel like that, and music would just have that quantum time jump.
Mm.
I found that fascinating, especially with 45s because they're really short. They're like only 3 minutes at most, three and a half. So I wasn't getting enough. So I grabbed another one and put that one on. And, for it's really late and I should really be sleeping.
And you're 7. You're 7 when you're first
I'm
uh,
7 years
developing
old
this relationship with the vinyl.
with the
Uh,
vinyl.
do you think that the like having the child's curiosity and playfulness had a long-lasting impact on your relationship with vinyl?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, can you expand a bit more on how that stayed with you and how that informs your ongoing relationship with vinyl?
Sure. Well, I think it had a lot to do with me growing up in the 70s, and all my 45s were funk records because that's what was available in Chicago on the South Side at that time. So we're talking, I can recall one of my favorite 45s was BT Express, because I was very fascinated with the little whistle song, the flute train thing that they had in the record. So I was just fascinated. How could they get that sound onto this vinyl? So I will play it over and over, trying to just imagine in my mind how was that produced, But I was just fascinated with records at a very early age, particularly with the drummer and the bass.
And you were a live musician too, you were saying.
That came later. I mean, I have a lot of history. I can take up the whole interview, but I don't want to do that. But I have a long journey that I've never had the opportunity to tell till now. So I'll try to give you the short version. DJing didn't came long after all that. You could just say I was a vinyl collector as a kid, and then a very avid watcher of Soul Train. So that's where the musicianship came in at, because now I get to see the bass player and see the drummer behind the songs that I was, loving and hearing all the time. Jumping forward again, there was a neighborhood band in my neighborhood, and they were rehearsing. And I was riding my bike past this window, and for some reason, this music sounded different than on the radio. And what I mean by that is by acoustics. So I'm probably 10 or 11 at this time. And I get off my bike and I go peek in the window, and they're actually playing these instruments. That did it for me right there. And I remember the song. It was Chuck Mangione's Feel So Good. Absolutely one of my favorite songs. They were playing it live, lick for lick, note for note, exactly like the record, but only it was live. And how I knew it was live is that I was peeking in the window like a little kid like this, and they will stop and talk and start back like punch-ins. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that there were musicians in my neighborhood. So just like the Bobby Pauly story.
Yeah, exactly. Analogy, yeah.
I flipped a mailbox. I stuck my hand in their mailbox and I was flipping it till I got their attention. And they let me in, and they let me sit in and watch their session.
You had to connect.
I had to connect. I wasn't giving up. I didn't care about my bike. My bike could have got stolen. I didn't care. It was music.
I don't imagine you regret either of those cases of letting your curiosity lead you to these encounters.
Yeah. I'm drawn to sound. I'm drawn to sound. Any kind of sound. Even the washing machine has a rhythm. Even walking has a rhythm. You can hear your feet. I mean, it's just so in tune for me. I can't explain it. It's in my head. It's in my spirit. It's in my DNA.